Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Elston, and in this video we're going to explore the Sons of Medusa, and we're going to try and paint them up and get a different kind of black on these iron hands. It's an interesting one. You'll see me make some mistakes, and maybe you'll learn a thing or two, so stick around for this one. So in this video, I started off by priming the model black and then did a zenithal highlight. This was literally just to give me an idea of what I was looking at, basically show up afterwards. This is not a required step. In fact, you're going to go over this with just dark colours anyway, so it's not required. However, if you do want to see what you're painting, this is a good idea to see what it looks like before you actually get some paint down. But we're going to start with Vallejo Premium Metallic Black, and we're going to coat this entire marine in it. As I said, zenithal highlight, not really required. You can get away with just priming it straight from black and then this on top. You could try another colour and this on top. I have no idea how that's going to work, but give it a whirl if you want to. So I just wanted to say at this point, if you're enjoying the content, please hit the subscribe and the like button and share it around to any friends that you think might also like this kind of content. Now we're going to use scale colour Cobalt Alchemy. Now, I didn't want just black, I wanted other colours in here, so I've opted for a blue. I'm trying to go for a cold look. Then it isn't going to turn out blue by any means. When you have a look at it, when you see the following steps, it doesn't look blue. But there is another colour there to make it more interesting, rather than just silver. But now we're going to use White Alchemy. Now, if you saw my Imperial Fist video, we're going to try the same technique and see if this works with metallics. And all we're doing is spot highlighting where we want the highest volumes of the miniature to be. And when I say volumes, I mean the highest points where we want the reflections, basically the shiny bits to show up. And we're just going to block those in. Doesn't need to be neat, it just needs to have the idea of where it is. What we're going to do is we're going to blend on top of these and see how that comes out. A good guide or roadmap of this is actually have a look at the reflections and try and paint those reflections with the white bit. That's the easiest thing I can suggest. Where you see that light reflecting, try and paint it with the white, because it's going to do some interesting things next. See how it turns out. Whether or not you like it, that's up to you. Okay, now comes for the fun part. So I decided not to clean my airbrush and decided to put a lot of water in it and then just a couple of drops or brush loads of contrast paint Black Templar in there. And the idea was I'm going to paint this on lots of thin glazes. Now, a couple of things happened here. One, it took ages. So don't do that. Don't put a little bit more than just super thin down black paint. Two, I didn't clean my airbrush out, so it still had metallic paints. This kind of worked because it blended a little bit of the metallics into it. However, I'm not 100% on it. It did help blend that white into the rest of the metals, but as you can see here, I'm going in layer after layer after layer after layer of this thin black, and it takes me absolutely ages. So, what advice can I say from all this experience I've learnt? Just don't thin down a Black Templar that much. Maybe 2 to 1, maybe? Water to Black Templar? Maybe go, if you really want to chance it, like go thinner, maybe 4 to 1. But it took a long time to get to this step. And as you can see, it's getting darker and darker, and we're aiming more for that black and black, metallic black effectively. But it took a long time. So learn from my mistake, go a little bit thicker with the Black Templar over it. You'll still get a metallic black, but don't waste so much time like I did. Now the aim of this is I wanted to create a different type of black. Black is a notorious paint colour, a lot of people paint it a different way, and iron hands have a certain distinguishing factor of metal, so I wanted to add a metallic black to their appearance rather than just black, because I thought that would resonate with them a bit more. And I couldn't paint an Iron Hands without using Iron Hands steel, and this is just going to go over the areas where I do want it to be silver, because we're using a silver trim, and we're going to paint this over all the details and trim where we do want it to be silver. This point was one of the more magical points, a bit like the other videos like the Imperial Fists and the World Eaters. This was like painting in the segments in between the armor, so this allowed me to start breaking up the model. Rather than being one generic color, this added some extra detail, added that kind of ornamentation to the model itself. This bit was kind of therapeutic, and I really liked it because it started really bringing the model to life. Now we're going to use Panzer Ace's dark rubber to paint in the joins in between the armor. Now, you can't really spot this, so whether or not it's worth your time, I'll leave that up to you. But it does show a little bit of a difference between metallics and non-metallics, so I thought just breaking up a little bit might help. And also what I'm doing, again, because the Iron Steel went on pretty thin, I'm just doing another coat over it to get a really solid colour. Don't be afraid to do this with metallics. If it doesn't go on straight away, or as in it doesn't go solid, just go over with another coat and you should get that nice solid finish with them. Now we're going to use non-oil gloss. Now we're going to paint this all over the silver areas to add a little bit of definition. Now I thinned down the non-oil gloss just to give me a little bit of breathing room. If this dries thick, it dries really thick. So I like putting this on thin, and if it's not completely there after one coat, quite happily go in with the second coat just to get a bit of a better finish. What it does do as well is it allows you to do a little bit of a gradient on some of the metals, so if you do find that it's not quite there, you can start adding more of a gradient in there, and allows you to do a bit of a shading with the system. Now here comes a really weird bit. I wanted more definition, and this is very tricky to do with a black colour, because black is like the end of it, effectively, and when it comes to colours, there's not much more or less to it at that point. It is black. However, I thought we could get a little bit more by doing some sort of pin shading with Black Templar. Now, see what your mileage is with Black Templar on this. If you don't find you're getting that much definition out of it, switch to a watered down black. Black Templar is not as solid as normal black paint, so if you get a normal black acrylic and water it down, you might have a better effect than using Black Templar. Again, if you've watched the rest of my Primacy videos, I do like doing this because it does add a bit of definition. Would I do this on an entire army? No way in hell. I'd probably just put a wash on it. But for single miniatures, yeah, I think it's worth that little bit of extra just to try and get that little bit of extra definition on a black model. It does make sense if we can just add a little bit more, otherwise it becomes a little bit dull. Now we're going to start painting some of the details. So what I did was mix Mephiston Red with Black Templar to start with, to colour in his little screen and his little keys on his wrist. And then I come in with normal Mephiston just to do a highlight. Now, with this highlight, you can skip this step. Apart from the keys, do the keys on the wrist, fine, but the actual screen, I change it up later, so just ignore that step. I'm showing you just because I'm showing the process of what I do when it comes to painting. I have ideas, and sometimes they don't work. Now we're going to use Warpstone Glow, and this is going to paint the visor of his helmet, and also that weird little thing on the side of his helmet. I don't know why I painted it green. I think in retrospect I might have left that, but live and learn. I thought I wanted to try, I wanted to see what it looked like, and it does add a little bit of variation into black and silver, but hey. Now we're going to use Pallid Witch Flesh, and I know this cable isn't a hazard stripe cable. I know it's not a solid cable because it's got cable bundles and stuff like that. So, but I decided to paint it all Pallid Witch Flesh. Anyway, and the idea is painting it yellow in a minute. But what I decided to do as well is mix in that Pallid Witch Flesh into the green and just gradually start highlighting up the visor of it. And then I decided to mix it in with the red and try to do a little crosshair on the little screen he's got. What I had to do though, because it came out kind of pink, I had to go back in with some reds to try and push it back into a red kind of look. Now we're going to use Avalon Sunset, and as I said, I wanted to paint it yellow. I actually didn't press the record button at the right time, so that's why it's already yellow at this point. Yay! But yes, paint this bit yellow. I'm literally making up hazard stripe signs. It doesn't correlate with the actual sculpt itself, but I just didn't care at this point. I was like, you know what? He's going to have hazard stripes. If I were to do this again, I'd probably go back and paint where the tears in the sort of cabling are to be something else, but I've done it now. And I'm also going to use the Pallid Witch Flesh to paint the Purity Seal style thing on his bolter, and the pallets and the pouches on the side of him, because we're going to use our good old friend contrast paints on these. So Pallid Witch Flesh is a nice easy one. Because we've got it out, we can use that to base coat some of the colours where we're going to use contrast paints, which is what's next. Snakebite leather, and we're just going to drench this on over the pouches. This is the easiest way I find of doing leather these days, and I like cheating from time to time. So yeah, anyone that gives me grief about it, I don't care. I like to cheat because there's certain things I like being good at and putting the effort in, and there's certain things I like being lazy with. So yeah, now we're going to use thin down Agaros dunes? Thin down Agaros dunes, and we're just going to wash this over the Purity Seal on the gun. Now we're going to use Flash Gits Yellow to highlight the yellow on those cables. But I also decided I wanted to make the cable from his arm. I wanted that to have hazard stripes on it as well. So again, colour with Avalon Sunset, then highlight with Flash Gits, and then do the black afterwards. It's a lot easier doing the yellow first of hazard stripes and then doing the black of the hazard stripes. And then we're glazing back in some green to try and get that visor to look a bit green instead of pale. And then trying to highlight up again. So this is kind of like a miniature wet blending going on here. Now I'm doing some highlights on the silver parts because I want this to stand out, have a little bit of definition to those silvers. So we're just painting over some of the areas we want to pop a little bit more. Now we're going to use Thousand Suns Blue, and we're going to make it look like his little claw is like an actual sparky thing. I know it's not a sparky thing, but you can see I'm taking some artistic liberties with this, so I'm going to make it look like it's a little sparky thing. There is a proper word for it, I know, but I can't think of it right now. So his little sparky thing is what it's going to be. And again, trying to highlight up that green on the visor. Now we're going to do the hazard stripes on the yellow, because yellow's dried and it's a lot easier to do dark over light rather than light over dark. So that's why we did the yellow first and then did the dark highlights. What you'll see there is me tilting it backwards and forwards. Because this is a 3D object effectively, I want to try and make sure the lines match up. So it doesn't hurt to shift the model around to make sure your lines are matching up. Now for the fun part. So in the previous episodes of this series, I've been doing weathering, as in painting in the scratches. I've decided to go to good old-fashioned sponge weathering. I used to get grief for not doing this, so I am doing this now. We're going to use Mornfang Brown, and what we're going to do is pick off all the bits of a sponge, dab it off, and then dab it onto the model. This bit can go wrong very easily. I mean, personally, I think I've probably done a bit too much brown on this, but live and learn. We'll just make it look like it's a dirty area is the way you cover it up. This is a really good point where if you have any balls ups with your painting, see if you can cover them up with this. So what I tend to do is put a brown down first and then put a silver on top of it to make it look like it's chipping away at the actual metal, and the brown represents the paint flaking off and the silver is representing the metal showing through, which the paint has flaked off and is now showing the underside. But have fun with this bit. This is one of the most liberating parts. It doesn't take a massive amount of time, but just be a little bit careful. If you find it's going a little bit in the wrong direction, like a little bit too much brown, it doesn't hurt to come back in with a paintbrush to just correct it with very small brush strokes to show either more dirt or more steel. I've gone for more steel at this point because I wanted the dirt to be weathered down a bit. I'm coming in and just spot highlighting little bits where I think there should be more steel reflecting through rather than dirt. and you can pick out any other points where you think weathering may have happened and it would be showing through to the bare metal. And for some godforsaken reason, I decided to try and highlight the visor up with some silver, just to break it up a little bit more. And here we go, here's the final product. So this is our Iron Hands. This is part of the Primaris project, so he's got a very heresy vibe going on, but using the Primaris kits as the base for it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Not my best work, but I think if you're struggling with blacks and how to get something unique for your Iron Hands, this might be a good way forward for you to something for you to try. You don't have to take every single step from this, you can do other bits and bobs yourself. If you like the video, please hit the like, share, subscribe, all of that jazz. Share it around to anyone that you think might like this video. And until next time everyone, be good, be safe, take it steady, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.